Well, welcome back to Better Living. I'm here with Dr. Bob from Sylvania Vet. We're going to talk about flu. It's, everybody's talking about having the rotavirus here in our area. It's been going around like wildfire, but we're going to talk about the flu for dogs. And you were telling me there's been a big outbreak in Chicago.
Yes, it was on the news locally and it went national. They've had a serious outbreak of canine influenza virus in the greater Chicago area. And there's been, as of 2 or 3 days ago, there's been more than 1,000 cases with several deaths, less than 10, but still several deaths, and one's too many, because this is a preventable disease.
Well, we can't, if I have the flu, I can't give it to my dog, and likewise, correct?
That is correct. The human flu virus, and that's a cluster of viruses that we get our shots for. That's a different strain, and it's not contagious to dogs. And the canine flu virus is not contagious to people. Interestingly enough, where the canine flu virus came, and this is relatively new within the last 10 years, was a mutation that came from horse flu, and it originally affected greyhounds in the racing tracks on the East Coast. It has now gone pretty much national. The sad thing about the Chicago outbreak is that they had an outbreak of 3 or 4 years ago, and it was very minor, and the veterinarians there didn't take it that seriously, and as a result now it's a big problem. All the dog parks in the area are now closed temporarily because it's so highly contagious. Boarding kennels are closing. Financially, it's really devastating to boarding kennels, groomers, veterinarians. So it's a very tough disease. The vaccine is very effective. It's a killed vaccine. It can't possibly cause the disease. I can't tell you how much this mimics when I first came into practice and parvovirus came about in the dog population as a mutation of the cat distemper virus, and how it was just massively severe, and we had nothing to do to be able to protect the animals. And we now have good vaccine. So I think the key take home right today is you need to know about canine flu. We strongly recommend that you vaccinate and have your dog vaccinated, because it takes a month to establish immunity. But we do not have any diagnosed cases in Northwest Ohio at this point.
How often? Is it a vaccine that you get once a year, just like the human flu vaccine?
It initially starts with a series of 2 shots given 3 to 4 weeks apart, and then annually thereafter. And this is strictly preventive. You know, we've been pushing it at our practice and recommending it at our practice for 5 years now. Not all the veterinarians in the area have followed suit, but more are becoming on board, recognizing Chicago is just not that far away.
Not at all.
And there's a lot of movement between. The key to this is that your dog can actually shed the virus before it becomes clinically ill, so it can get exposed. Incubation is 2 to 5 days. In that 2 to 5 day period, it can begin to shed the virus. Then it starts to show signs of illness, and it can continue to shed the virus for 15 days. They can become deathly ill with this. 70% of the dogs that actually get the respiratory form of this disease, and it is a respiratory disease, not an intestinal flu, they can have, 70% of those dogs can have permanent lung damage, so it can have long-term consequences for the health of the pet.
What are some of the symptoms I should be aware of?
Well, they're very subtle in the beginning, and so lethargy, a decrease in appetite, a little bit of a runny nose, a cough, which you might not think sounds like too big a deal, a low fever, and that may be all the farther it goes. And there's a very small percentage of dogs that get it without the vaccines, but they never break, but they shed the virus. So that's typhoid Mary walking around spreading the disease. The virus can live on furniture and walls and floors and carpets and that type of thing for 2 days. Can live on we can transmit it by handling it and getting the secretions from the pet on our clothing, and without hygiene and washing and so forth, it can live for a day on our clothing. And my son lives in Chicago in a high-rise. There are 6 diagnosed dogs in that building. He's freaked out. He's got a dog. What do we do? How do we handle these dogs, and how do we handle keeping our dogs away? Fortunately, his dog is vaccinated, but Lysol will, and any other good disinfectant will kill the virus. So I've advised him to tell the people with positive dogs, because they got to get them outside,
Sure.
to spray as they go, some Lysol spray in the elevator when they enter and leave, and hopefully the management will do a little better cleaning job on in the elevators as well.
Should I be concerned about taking my dog to the groomer or to be boarded right now?
Well, I think right now I would not be concerned about that, because we have no diagnosed cases in Northwest Ohio, and so the impetus really is take this seriously. Get your dog vaccinated and protected, because just like the flu vaccine that we get, it doesn't necessarily protect 100%, but it dramatically decreases the severity, the duration of shedding, the duration of the clinical signs, and the duration of those severe long-term consequences of lung damage.
Good advice for us. We want to keep those animals in our lives as safe as we do our children that we get vaccinated.
Absolutely, that's true. And so don't panic, but I would strongly recommend calling us or your veterinarian and scheduling those vaccines, because remember, it takes a whole month to establish immunity.
All right, get that dog vaccinated today. If you have any questions, you absolutely can call Sylvania Vet. We'll be right back.